Hi, I'm Matt Cooksey. I'm going to show you how to install the Quatreau HydreauBar 1. These systems fit inside a standard cabinet. Make sure you've read and understood the pre-installation checklist and have brought the correct tools to complete the job. Let's get this install done. Once you've decided where you're going to put your HydreauBar 1 drip tray, use your template, place it on the counter and use a square just to make sure that the template is exactly in the right place. Once you're happy the template is square, keep some pressure on the template and mark out the holes. So once we've marked out with a pencil where we're going to drill the holes, we'll remove the template, and this is where we can mark out the center points of the holes. The easiest way to do that is if you get your hole saw, put it over the top of the hole that you want to drill, get the smaller drill part of the hole saw, screw that in to the hole saw itself, just keeping some pressure on it all the time. And that'll put a nice center mark where you can start your drilling. We do exactly the same with the holes for the buttons. We take apart the hole saw, line up your hole saw on the edge of your marked out buttonholes. Use the smaller drill part, keeping pressure on the hole saw and the drill. Screw down, which will give you a nice center point where to start. So we've marked out one hole. There's two buttons on either side of the Quatreau HydreauBar 1. So we need to mark out our second, third and fourth holes. We do this in exactly the same way. If you line up on the edge of the hole we want to cut, keeping pressure on, screw down until you've got a nice center point to start your hole. That's your 4 starting center holes for your 2 buttons on the left-hand side, and then for your 2 buttons on the right-hand side, and then the hole for your spout at the back of the HydreauBar 1 drip tray. Before installing the drip tray of the Quatreau HydreauBar 1, please ensure that you put a bead of clear silicone around the whole outside edge of the drip tray. We're now going to install the Quatreau HydreauBar 1 drip tray and tank. Slide that into the hole. Just making sure the wires for your buttons don't get snagged on the way in. The drip tray is then secured with the spout retainer, making sure that the locating lug locates with the hole that's on the drip tray. And use the brass nut provided in the install kit and secure this underneath. And just tighten it up with your spanner just to make sure it's nice and secure. We can now install the spout. Slide that through, remove the protective cardboard, and then just make sure your spout is lined up with the centre of the bottle fill. And then tighten up with the 2mm Allen key just to nip the grub screws in the spout retainer. So when you arrive on site, please make sure before you start you have a mains cold water feed isolated and a waste upstand and 2 separate power supplies, one for the chiller and one for the HydreauBar 1 control unit. We're now going to start the install. In the install kit, you'll get a 3/4 to 1/4 push fit fitting. This screws on your mains cold water feed. You just need to do this up by hand, don't need pliers. It has a rubber seal inside the fitting and make sure it has a nice watertight seal. Then put your blue pipe into the connector, making sure it's a nice tight fit and the collar just pulls out when you pull the pipe, and then install your red clip. And then just slide that 15mm compression elbow over. We're now going to connect the push fit fitting that's in the install kit. This is a 1/2 inch to 1/4. This fits on your mains water in, and then just need to tighten that up slightly. Don't over tighten it. There is a rubber seal inside the fitting to make sure it has a good watertight seal. You can now fit the blue pipe. Make sure you fit a nice long length of this, because this is going to fit to the mains in to the left-hand side as you're looking at it. Now we can start connecting the 3/8 blue pipe to the elbow fittings on the tank. Now take some of the larger blue pipe, which is the 3/8 blue pipe, and fit it to the wash labelled fitting on the side of the tank, ensuring that the pipe is fully pushed in. Now fit a piece of 3/8 blue pipe to the bottom of the tank. This is labelled tank. Push the pipe all the way home and install a red clip. If we put the HydreauBar 1 into place, we can then connect the power making sure that the power is isolated at the plug. We can now install the comms cables. Install the top fill cable, which is labelled fill with an F on the top of the comms cable and fill labelled on the HydreauBar. Then install into the bottom's comms port the comms cable for the wash. This is labelled wash on the unit and has a W on the plug. We're now ready to start connecting the pipes from the tank to the HydreauBar 1. Start off with the first manifold port closest to you, which is the bottle fill. We'll now connect the 3/8 pipe from the tank, which is labelled tank, to the manifold port on the HydreauBar 1, which is labelled tank. Make sure you push the blue pipe all the way into the 3/8 push fitting and attach a red locking clip. We're then going to attach the blue pipe from the spout into the elbow fitting, 3/8 elbow fitting on the manifold of the HydreauBar. Making sure we push the pipe all the way into the fitting and fit a red locking clip. We're now going to attach a piece of 3/8 blue pipe into the drain fitting onto the drain manifold fitting on the HydreauBar 1. This is going to go into our drain at the back of the cupboard. Making sure we push the blue pipe all the way in and fit the red locking clip. We can now fit the blue pipe to the 3/8 elbow on the manifold port labelled bottle fill on the HydreauBar system. Connect that with some 3/8 blue pipe and the 3/8 isolation valve, and connect that to the blue pipe coming from the spout. Cut the pipe as needed and connect into the 3/8 elbow on the HydreauBar system, making sure the blue pipe is pushed all the way in and a red locking clip is fitted. Then make sure you fit the locking clips to the 3/8 isolation valve. All isolation valves, when installing, should be in the off position. We're now going to connect the HydreauBar 1 to your mains water in. You now need to install an isolation valve 1/4 inch on your mains water in pipework. Connect a 3/8 to 1/4 T push fit. So your mains water in, T's at this point, one blue pipe goes up to the tank fill, one blue pipe, which is 1/4 inch, goes to your mains water in on your HydreauBar 1. You then fit a 1/4 inch filter, making sure blue pipes pushed all the way in and red locking clips are fitted. That's your HydreauBar 1 connected to the mains water in. The next stage is to connect your comms cables from your HydreauBar system to the buttons on your drip tray. Make sure you route the cables so they're not going to get caught or snagged. The cables are labelled with a W for wash, for the wash button, a D for drain, for the drain button, and then the second comms cable is labelled with a C for chilled and an S for sparkling, for the sparkling button. The next stage is to install the chiller. Now we can install the CS45 chiller. There's no vent kit on this chiller, but it's very important that you make sure the power is not switched on before you put the power lead plug in. This is, once again, very important. Do not have the power on to this chiller when plugging it in. We can now start connecting the 1/4 inch blue pipe to the 1/4 inch fittings on top of your chiller. Remove the blanking plugs and start off connecting the blue pipe to the chiller. Connect the 1/4 inch blue pipe to the chilled out on the chiller, to the chilled in labelled elbow on the HydreauBar one. Then connect 1/4 inch blue pipe to the soda out on the chiller, to the sparkling in on the HydreauBar system. Connect a piece of 1/4 inch blue pipe to the CO2 in the chiller and leave that free. And then the last piece of 1/4 inch blue pipe to the water in on the chiller, to the water out on the HydreauBar system. Ensure all the blue pipes are pushed all the way into the push fit fittings and red locking clips are fitted. And install the external gas regulator with the blue pipe. Connect that to the 1/4 inch push fit elbow on the external gas regulator. Cut the pipe as needed and connect into the 3/8 elbow. All isolation valves, when installing, should be in the off position. Then make sure you fit the locking clips to the 3/8 isolation valve. We're now going to start the commissioning process on the Quatreau HydreauBar 1. At this stage, there's no power or water to either the chiller or the water control unit. So we just need to remove the 2 stainless steel filter housings on the front of the system. The filter housing on the right is the filter housing for your mains water in. So this filter is your taste and odour carbon filter. You just need to slot that into the stainless steel filter housing, and then with your fingers, just tighten the carbon filter. You just need to do this hand tight, don't over tighten it, and then slide up the stainless steel filter housing. Once again, do this up, just hand tight. You don't need to over tighten it or use a spanner to tighten it. And on the left hand stainless steel filter housing, this filter is for cleaning the water in the tank that is used for washing the bottles. This is a UF, which is an ultra filter. Once again, just insert this into this filter housing, line it up, and then screw this on by hand using the neck of the ultra filter. Screw it up until it's hand tight, and then screw on the stainless steel filter housing, making sure you don't over tighten. We're now going to commission the Quatreau HydreauBar 1. At this stage, we've got the power switched off for the chiller and the power switched off for the water control unit. We've also got the water isolated at the back of the system. What we'll do first, just turn the power on to the water control unit. We'll make that noise. That's just the pump running because it will try and do a drain through the tank, just press the drain function on the drip tray and the pump will stop working. These systems will drain the tank automatically every 24 hours from the time that you first turn it on. So if it is in a busy place, you do need to make sure that this gets turned off and then on again at a time that's not going to be inconvenient. What we need to do now is just connect the gas bottle to the external gas regulator. The gas regulator is set from factory, so it should give you perfect sparkling water. Screw the gas bottle up. You'll hear it make a hiss. Keep screwing until that hissing stops and the bottle's tight. Nice and tight. You don't need to do it any tighter than that. You don't need any spanners. Just do it up by hand. Tuck your gas bottle out the way somewhere. Now what we're going to do is call for the sparkling function on the drip tray, just so we know that there is gas coming into the chiller. You'll hear a burst of gas. Try and have a container underneath. I've got a bottle, so the gas just goes into there. So we know there's gas in the chiller. Next thing we need to do is turn the water on to the system. You'll hear the tank start filling. This will shut off automatically when it's full, and this is also allowing water to come down and start feeding the water control unit. So if we call for chilled water, keep your finger on the button till you get a nice steady flow. Make sure there's no spluttering. Once you're happy there's a nice steady flow, you now know that there's water and there's gas in the chiller. This is vitally important that you do it this way round. Please make sure there is gas and there is water in this chiller before you go any further. The next stage is we'll turn the power on to the chiller. The pump in the chiller and the compressor and the cooling fan will all come on at once. So you'll hear a noise. And then after a few seconds, probably 15-20 seconds, the pump should cut off, but you will still hear the cooling fans running. That's the pump cut off. So you know now that water has now been pumped into the gas canister in the chiller. So we're good to go to try and call for sparkling water. It may burst ever so slightly, so make sure you've got a container underneath. We've now got a nice flow of sparkling water. The best way to check that the sparkling water is correct is by waiting for the chiller to finish chilling, because you'll always get better sparkling water with chilled water. The way you can tell when the chiller's finished chilling is that the fans and the compressor will switch off. So as soon as the chiller goes quiet, you know that it's reached its optimum temperature. Now that we've commissioned the Quatreau HydreauBar 1, we need to sanitize the system. This is to make sure that all the pipe work all the way up to the spout and the tank inside the chiller is all nicely sanitized. What we need to do, we need to isolate the water. We just call for chilled water just to make sure there's no pressure left in the system. We can now remove the right-hand stainless steel filter housing. Just be a little careful because there may well be some water in this housing. If you can just pull the system forward just a little bit, just enough to drop the housing, and then you can undo the carbon filter. Just be a bit careful because you are going to be putting this back on after you've sanitised. You try and use the collar around the top of the carbon filter. You know you won't damage it. Keep it somewhere nice and safe and clean. And then what we need to do is just add our human safe sterilisation fluid. The product we're using today says just use a capful. Just be a bit careful, because if this gets onto your clothes, it can mark your clothes. Then carefully screw the stainless steel filter housing back into place, making sure you don't over tighten. What we need to do is turn the water back on. Call for chilled water. There will be some air in the system because there was air inside this stainless steel filter housing. So if you just call for water until the air comes out, that's the air coming out now. Now the next lot of water that comes through should contain the sterilisation fluid. And the best way to check that is just give it a sniff and you can smell. It smells, got a slight chlorine smell, so you know then that sanitisation fluid has gone through the water control unit, through the chiller, through the pipework, and then up to the spout. And at the end, we'll call for sparkling water just to make sure that the sanitisation fluid has gone through the whole system. We need to leave that in the chiller for about 10 to 15 minutes, just so it can sanitise the tank. We've now left the sanitisation fluid in the chiller for around about 15 minutes. What we can do now is refit the carbon filter that we took out earlier. What we need to do first is isolate the water, go up to the chilled function, just press the chilled function just to take any pressure out of the system. We can now unscrew the stainless steel filter housing. Just be a bit careful, there might be a small amount of water that leaks out because the filter housing will be full. We just need to empty that and then refit the carbon filter. Once again, just try and screw the carbon filter in just with the tips of your fingers. Don't over tighten it, and then carefully screw the stainless steel filter housing back on. Turn your mains water back on. You can now call for sparkling water just to take any air out of the system. Once the air's out and you're getting a nice steady flow of water, you can then call for sparkling water just to make sure The sanitisation fluid has gone round to every part of the chiller and the water control unit. The Quatreau HydreauBar 1 will automatically change the water in the tank. This water is what sanitises your bottle mixed with ozone. If for whatever reason, say anything gets poured into here by accident, or you're washing lots of dirty bottles, you can call for the water to be changed earlier just by pressing the drain function. This will then remove the water from the tank and replace it with clean water. It's on a timer, so that will just run through, drain the water completely and refill it with fresh water. And now we can check the wash function on the Quatreau HydreauBar 1. Start off by placing your bottle over the wash valve. Press the wash button, release, and you can let go of the bottle. As you can see, the water is spraying up, hitting the bottom of the bottle, which is then going down the sides, which is sanitizing with ozone and pure water. Your Quatreau HydreauBar 1 is now commissioned and sanitized.